Hello, everyone. My name is Buddy Kichler, and this is my choice book midterm project on the big picture by Dennis Litkey and Samantha Grable. The key concepts that I'm going to touch on from this book are the application to the real world, classroom climate and culture, learning through interests, and assessments. The real world. One of the big emphasis in this book was how we can use what we've been taught in the world. So how can we teach our students stuff that they can take into whether it's college, the career life, or anything that they need. So to do that, we need to make what we teach applicable. So not just teaching out of the textbook, giving them some problems and calling it a day. We need to give them assignments that are active and engaging. One way to do this is by utilizing internships and other experiences, so those outside resources that students can take and further their education beyond what they could in the normal classroom setting. With this, we talk about hands-on versus sit and listen. This is just a little phrase that I came up with. So students using the materials, using their hands, getting involved versus just sitting and listening to the teacher. And then teaching them the 4 C's: critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. The 4 C's are uh, really important, not just in the classroom, but as they move on into college or career readiness and just life in general. Classroom culture and climate. We need to make sure that our students feel safe, give them an environment in which they feel wanted and accepted. As the teacher, we need to provide them with outlets for support. So not just giving them a classroom saying, hey, you can hang out here if you want. Being an outlet for them to come to you, whether they have a serious issue to talk about, someone to just vent to, or we are mandated reporters, so that falls in that realm of providing them that outlet that they need to and want to come to. Develop an environment that includes everyone. So that inclusive environment, diversifying your classroom, uh, not subjugating it to just one or two subgroups, making sure that everyone feels wanted in your classroom. And incorporating outside help. So for this, I would look at the infographic to the left, where it talks about school climate, incorporating organizations, staff, students, families, and the community. So it's not just you and your students, it's you and your students and their families. And as I previously talked about, organizations such as internships or work experience and the community as a whole. All of those help develop a good school and classroom climate. Learning through our interests. It's pretty self explanatory. Students are going to learn so much more when they care about what they're learning. So uh, we increase that engagement when we include topics of interest for them. Um, when they are able to express themselves through different means, using what they care about, they can go on and on and on and talk. They have deeper connections with those topics. It's not something that they just have to go and learn through a couple hours of research, which goes into my last point: wanting to learn versus needing or having to learn. When we allow our students the opportunity to learn about topics that are interests of theirs, they will dive so much deeper into the content. They are going to go above and beyond the requirements versus when it's something that they need or have to learn. They're going to, most often than not, just do the bare minimum to meet those requirements that we provide them. You're going to get so much more out of your students, and they're going to get so much more out of the experience if it's something that piques their interest. And lastly, and probably one of the most important, is assessments. We've gone through the days of multiple choice, true false tests, and that just provides us with students that are great guessers. We need to provide, now that's not to say that those aren't okay as well, but we need to provide such things as free responses, projects, presentations, experiments, exhibitions. That's a big one that Litkey talked about in this book. All of these different types of assessments allow students of varying abilities to express what they know and have mastered. Adequate test questions. What do you want to know? So with this, I mean, we need to provide the students with questions on assessments that give us what we're looking for. They need to be deep, involved questions, not just yeses and nos. We need the students to expand on their explanations for these answers to these questions. If we have a learning target or an essential standard that we are trying to teach them, we need to make sure that that test question addresses that and helps prove that the student knows or does not know the question or the answer to the question. Assess what skills they have learned, not just the content. So when we're developing assessments, and again, this is a variety of them, such as experiments, presentations, or if you want to go with a generic test for one, you're not just assessing, do they know what 2 plus 2 is? Go beyond that. Create deeper thinking questions. Really see what they know. And again, it's not just the content, it's the skills involved with the content. And that comes back to the 4 C's. Can they think critically to explain why their answer is or is not correct? Their communication and collaboration skills, if it's a presentation or an experiment or an exhibition. So you'll see those 4 C's play a key role. And fail forward. I think we grade too much on just, is it correct? No? Okay, you don't get any points. But failing forward, meaning it's okay to fail. And I think that's a very important thing that Litkey talks about, is that just because a student fails doesn't mean they haven't learned. So fail forward. And lastly, why should you buy this book? Well, one thing that stood out to me was that it's very example filled with everything that he's done through his Met schools. There were multiple examples from multiple students of multiple age levels, grades, and subject areas. And no matter what the age group, even though I've only taught a little bit of middle school and will eventually teach high school, I was able to connect no matter who the student was or what the example was. I was able to make those connections and really reflect on some of my teachings through the examples that they provided. All these examples, they are applicable to the real world. These are real life scenarios that are occurring. So the application to the real world is present in this book. It is our duty to educate and improve ourselves. So this is a great buy because it is going to better yourself. And lastly, one of the most important, it addresses the whole student, not just the student as a student, but the student as a person, socially, behaviorally, emotionally, all those different avenues, other than just the student in the classroom, their grade A, B, C, D. It goes well beyond that and teaches you to teach the student outside of the academic perspective. Really, what we or have been talking about is curriculum and how you teach the student. It's how you teach all those other things other than the actual content itself, which I think this book does a great job of addressing. So that is my reflection to The Big Project by Mr. Litkey, and happy reading.